Tell me to do something for God and country and go back to work.
That's a good one right there.
He was known as the Old Man, the face of Pawn Stars, loved by millions for his sharp wit and eye for rare treasures. But behind the cameras, Richard Harrison's life was far from perfect. Tragedy, illness, and shocking family disputes would test him and his loved ones in ways the show never showed. Today, we reveal the untold story of the Old Man, his struggles, his triumphs, and the shocking controversies that shook the Harrison family. The life of Richard.
Especially since these were movie posters. This wasn't something that was built to be framed and hung on a wall.
The world knew him simply as the Old Man, but behind the camera, Richard Harrison's life was anything but simple. He was a man shaped by discipline, hard work, and perseverance, and his story begins long before the cameras ever rolled. Richard Benjamin Harrison Jr. was born on March 4, 1941 in Danville, Virginia. When he was just 1 year old, his family moved to Lexington, North Carolina. They settled in a modest home on 115 Peacock Avenue, a simple house that reflected the working-class life his family led. Money was always tight, and young Richard saw firsthand the effort it took to make ends meet. His father worked as a welder and carpenter, and each day taught Richard a lesson. Survival came only through hard work. By the age of 14, he was already contributing to the family. While other teenagers worried about school dances and hanging out with friends, Richard had a job most wouldn't dream of. He became a school bus driver. Every morning, he woke early to pick up children and drive them to school, earning just $5 or $6 a week. It wasn't much, but to Richard and his family, it made a real difference. Education was important, but financial responsibility weighed heavier. He attended Lexington High School, but dropped out in his junior year, knowing that helping his family was more urgent than textbooks and homework. At 17, life threw him a twist that would forever shape his future. At a barn dance, he met Joanne Rue, a young woman who would become the love of his life. Around the same time, he made a mistake that could have derailed everything. He stole a car. Standing in front of a judge, he was given a choice: jail or military service. He chose the Navy, enlisting in October 1958. That decision would mark the beginning of a life defined by structure, duty, and resilience. Richard's military career was rigorous and demanding. Though he had planned to serve 4 years, life had other plans. 2 years in, he married Joanne, and not long after, they welcomed their first child, Sherry. Sherry was born with Down syndrome, requiring medical care that was both specialized and expensive. Determined to provide for her, Richard re-enlisted, committing even more time to the Navy to ensure she had the care she needed. Over the next 2 decades, Harrison served on 4 ships and rose to the rank of Petty Officer First Class. His deployments took him across the Pacific, including tours on destroyers such as USS Orlick and USS Twining. Later, he joined Tactical Air Control Squadron 21, coordinating air operations with precision. His longest assignment came aboard USS Chewanak from 1971 to 1975, a period marked by multiple deployments to Vietnam. During his service, he earned commendations like the Good Conduct Medal and Vietnam Service Medal, accolades that reflected both skill and dedication. Despite these achievements, Navy life meant long stretches away from home. Richard spent nearly half of his career at sea, missing precious moments with his family. By 1979, with 3 teenage sons at home, he made the decision to retire after 20 years of service. He and Joanne moved to San Diego, hoping to start fresh and build a successful future outside the Navy. They opened a real estate business, working tirelessly to establish a stable livelihood. But life had another challenge waiting. The early 1980s brought an economic collapse that turned their dreams upside down. Mortgage interest rates skyrocketed to 18%, and their investments in real estate collapsed. They lost nearly $1 million, a devastating blow for any family. But Richard refused to surrender. He often credited his Navy experience for teaching resilience, discipline, and the ability to persevere when everything seemed lost. By April 1981, With only $5,000 remaining, Richard and Joanne made a bold move. They packed up and relocated to Las Vegas. It was a gamble, a chance to rebuild from nothing. The city wasn't yet the bustling entertainment capital it would become, but Harrison saw opportunity. He believed that with determination and strategy, they could start over. Soon, Richard and his son Rick opened a tiny second-hand store called Gold and Silver Coin Shop. The shop was just 300 square feet, barely enough to move around. They did whatever they could to attract customers, but business was slow. Rick supplemented the family income by working nights repossessing cars, while helping run the shop during the day. Money was tight, but the Harrisons' persistence never wavered. Over time, their reputation grew. By 1986, they had outgrown the small shop and moved to a larger location. Still, Richard and Rick's vision was bigger. They knew they could do more. At the time, Las Vegas pawn licenses were nearly impossible to obtain. The city tightly regulated them, and only a few could operate legally. But Richard and Rick were patient. They tracked population growth, monitored the city's plans, and waited for their chance. In 1989, after years of effort, they secured one of the highly coveted licenses. The following year, they opened Gold and Silver Pawn Shop at 713 Las Vegas Boulevard South, just 2 miles from the Strip. Location and timing were perfect. By 2005, the shop was generating around $3 million in loans annually, with $700,000 in interest income. Success had arrived, but it had taken decades of perseverance, hard work, and risk-taking to get there. Las Vegas was crowded with pawn shops, and competition was fierce. Many saw the industry as shady, but the Harrisons focused on honesty and expertise. Rick's deep knowledge of history and collectibles gave the shop an edge. They specialized not only in gold, jewelry, and electronics, but also in rare artifacts and historical items. Trust became as valuable as inventory. By the early 2000s, their reputation was established. Tourists, collectors, and locals flocked to see what treasures they might find. From Roman coins to samurai swords, and even a 2001 New England Patriots Super Bowl ring once owned by Brock Williams. The shop's inventory was unique and captivating. In 2003, a feature on Insomniac with Dave Attell introduced the store to television audiences. For Rick, it was validation. He had long believed a show about their pawn shop would capture viewers' attention. Producers noticed the mix of history, rare items, and colorful personalities. Rick, Richard, the Old Man, Harrison, Corey, and Chumley. By 2008, the concept had crystallized. Originally called Pawning History, the show was rebranded as Pawn Stars by the History Channel. It premiered on July 19, 2009. Within 10 weeks, it became the network's highest-rated show, second only nationally to Jersey Shore among reality programs. Before the show, the shop saw around 70 visitors a day. By October 2010, that number soared to over 1,000. Tourists and collectors from across the globe came to see the store, meet the cast, and witness rare treasures firsthand. The shop expanded, eventually growing its showroom to over 15,000 square feet. At the heart of it all was Richard Harrison, the man behind the nickname the Old Man. Born March 4, 1941, his disciplined, no-nonsense approach had shaped both his family and his business. On screen, he was tough, sharp, and often clashed with Corey and Chumley, much to the viewer's delight. Off-screen, he was a devoted husband and father, deeply committed to his family's success. Richard loved classic cars, and the show highlighted his prized possessions, including a 1966 Imperial Crown. On his 50th wedding anniversary, his family surprised him with a fully restored version, a rare moment of emotion for a man otherwise known for his stern demeanor. In 1960, Richard married Joanne Rue, a woman who would stand by him for nearly 6 decades. Their life together was far from easy. Their first child, Sherry, was born with Down syndrome, and caring for her demanded immense resources and emotional strength. When she passed away at 6, the family was devastated, but they continued to face life's challenges together. Richard and Joanne went on to have 3 more children: Rick, Joseph Kent, and Christopher Keith. Life continued testing them with financial and personal struggles, but Richard's Navy background had instilled resilience, discipline, and a relentless work ethic. By the late 1980s, Richard and Rick took the risk that would define their legacy, opening gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas in 1989. From a tiny, disciplined, family-run operation, they built a business rooted in fairness, expertise, and hard work. Richard's sharp mind and commitment to doing things the right way created a foundation for a family business that would become a television legend. The Pawn Stars Show. Back in 1960, Richard Harrison married Joanne Rue, the woman who would stay beside him for nearly 6 decades. Joanne came from an influential family. Her father was first a county judge and later a leading attorney for Philip Morris. But despite her family's connections, Richard and Joanne never lived a life of luxury. Their path together was full of trials that would have broken many couples. Their first child, a daughter named Sherry, was born with Down syndrome. Caring for her required endless love and patience. But when Sherry passed away at only 6 years old, it left a wound in their hearts that never healed. Still, life moved forward. Richard and Joanne later welcomed 3 sons: Rick, Joseph Kent, and Christopher Keith. With Richard leaving the Navy after more than 20 years of service, stability became uncertain. Joanne earned her real estate license while Richard picked up whatever work he could find. Money was scarce, but they refused to let hardship tear them apart. By the late 1980s, Richard and Rick decided to gamble on a new idea. In 1989, they opened the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop in Las Vegas. At first, it was nothing more than a modest, family-run business, but Richard ran it with the same discipline he had learned in the Navy. No shortcuts, no excuses, and definitely no laziness. His sharp mind and firm standards shaped the shop's foundation. Richard had always been a no-nonsense man. Long before television cameras arrived, people called him the Old Man. He earned that nickname at just 38 years old because of his serious nature and old-school values. He believed in responsibility, hard work, and honesty, and he didn't sugarcoat his words. Inside the shop, that attitude made him a master negotiator. Anyone who tried to pull a trick quickly learned that Richard Harrison could see right through it. But behind the stern exterior, his family knew another side of him. He was a husband, a father, and a grandfather who loved deeply. His bond with Rick was especially strong. They worked side by side for years, building the business together. When Pawn Stars premiered in 2009, that relationship became the heart of the show. Fans loved their witty exchanges, their occasional disagreements, and the respect that tied them together. Richard also carried a lifelong passion for classic cars. For 15 years, he kept his eye on a 1966 Imperial Crown until the day he finally purchased it. That car held deep meaning, and years later, Rick and Corey surprised him by fully restoring it for his 50th wedding anniversary. For a man who rarely showed emotion, it was one of the few times tears came to his eyes. But life brought heartbreak again. Richard's middle son, Joseph Kent, passed away, another devastating loss for the family. Few parents could survive losing 2 children, but Richard pushed forward, focusing on the loved ones still by his side. Then came another challenge: behind Pawn Stars. Off camera, Richard was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. At first, he kept it to himself, not wanting sympathy. Richard Harrison had always been a man of principle. Even before the world came to know him as the Old Man, he had earned a reputation for being tough, no-nonsense, and unafraid to speak his mind. By the time he was just 38, he had already acquired the nickname that would follow him for decades. His gruff demeanor and old-school mentality weren't for show. He believed that life required hard work, personal responsibility, and a refusal to make excuses. Those values became the foundation of the pawn shop he and his family would later build into an empire. Walking into Richard's shop, anyone attempting to cheat, bluff, or take advantage quickly realized they were up against someone who had seen it all. Negotiating with him wasn't a game. It was a battle of wits, experience, and sheer intuition honed over decades. Yet beneath that stern exterior was a man deeply devoted to his family. Richard's bond with his eldest son, Rick, was particularly strong. They worked side by side, learning, teaching, and shaping the business together. When Pawn Stars premiered in 2009, viewers weren't just witnessing the daily operations of a pawn shop. They were watching the intricate, loving, and sometimes contentious relationship between father and son. Their playful arguments, occasional disagreements, and unspoken respect became the emotional heart of the show. Richard was more than just a sharp businessman. He was a devoted father and grandfather, a man who cherished his family above all else. He also had a passion for classic cars, a hobby that revealed a softer side hidden behind the tough exterior. For 15 years, he had his eye on a 1966 Imperial Crown, waiting patiently for the opportunity to buy it. When the chance finally arrived, it wasn't merely a transaction, it was a personal victory. Years later, on his 50th wedding anniversary, Rick and his son Corey surprised him by restoring the car fully. Richard, a man who rarely showed emotion, was left speechless, a rare moment that captured the depth of his love for his family. Tragedy struck the Harrisons repeatedly. Richard endured the unimaginable pain of losing a child more than once. His middle son, Joseph Kent, passed away, a heartbreak no parent should ever endure. Yet, true to form, Richard remained strong, focusing on keeping his remaining family close and united. While the world knew him for his on-screen sharpness, the reality behind the scenes was far harsher. Harrison battled Parkinson's disease, a progressive neurological disorder that gradually impaired his movement, balance, and speech. For years, he kept his condition private, continuing to work tirelessly at the shop and on the show. But Parkinson's is relentless. His hands trembled, simple tasks became exhausting, and his once booming voice grew softer. Despite these challenges, he pressed on, refusing to let the disease define him. By 2017, his health had declined further, forcing him to step back from the show. A stroke compounded his difficulties, and retirement became unavoidable. After nearly 3 decades of running the pawn shop and becoming a television icon, Richard finally had to let go. Fans noticed his absence and speculated about his condition, unaware of the daily struggle he faced. Yet even then, he remained involved in the business, offering guidance to Rick and Corey, ensuring that the shop continued according to his vision. On June 25, 2018, Richard Harrison passed away at the age of 77, surrounded by his loving family. The news hit fans worldwide, who had grown attached to the gruff yet lovable patriarch. Rick Harrison announced the heartbreaking news on Instagram. The old man lost his long battle with Parkinson's this morning. Love you, Dad. See you on the other side. The Gold and Silver Pawn Shop issued a statement confirming he had been surrounded by family in his final moments. Fans reacted immediately, flooding social media with tributes. His iconic chair in the shop became a makeshift memorial, with visitors leaving flowers, notes, and mementos. Richard's influence went far beyond reality TV. He embodied old-school values, honesty, hard work, and family loyalty, becoming a symbol of integrity and resilience for millions. Despite his legacy, his death exposed tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface. What appeared to be a united family business was hiding conflicts that would later erupt into legal battles over money and power. In February 2022, Richard's widow, Joanne Harrison, filed a lawsuit against her son Rick, alleging that he had tricked her into signing over her majority stake in the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop while she was recovering from a coma in either 2000 or 2001. Joanne claimed she was unaware of what she had signed. By the time she realized the situation, the legal and financial consequences were already in motion. According to the lawsuit, when Richard passed, Joanne inherited his 49% share, making her the full owner of the business. Joanne alleged that Rick refused to provide financial records and stopped the monthly payments he had previously made for her living expenses. Initially, he had paid her $25,000 each month, later reducing it to $20,000 before halting the payments entirely in 2020. She also claimed that Rick withheld more than $500,000 in cash and silver saved by Richard. Rick denied all allegations, asserting that Joanne was being influenced by others and acting under their persuasion. The conflict escalated in March 2022 when Joanne requested a temporary restraining order against Rick, aiming to prevent him from moving or hiding family assets during the ongoing lawsuit. This shocking feud revealed cracks in the Harrison family image that many fans had believed was unbreakable. This was not the family's first brush with legal controversy. In May 2012, a disabled Vietnam veteran, Daniel Callahan, filed a lawsuit against Richard and Rick Harrison. He alleged that in late 2011, during a dispute over a Model 96B rifle he brought in for appraisal, he had been assaulted. According to Callahan, Richard and Rick placed him in a chokehold, dragged him out of the store, threw him onto the sidewalk with his rifle and cane, and caused him injuries requiring medical attention. He sought $20,000 to cover damages and legal fees. The lawsuit brought unwanted attention to Pawn Stars at the peak of its popularity. Corey Harrison, also known as Big Hoss, defended his family, claiming the allegations were false and that neither Richard nor Rick had been present in the store at the time. Corey stated that Callahan had become aggressive while holding the rifle, and security had intervened to protect everyone's safety. Beyond lawsuits, tensions behind the scenes intensified. Some cast members felt that Rick received the majority of recognition and screen time, while others contributed equally to the shop's success. Crew members and writers also raised concerns about wages. According to a Writers Guild of America East survey, Pawn Stars writers earned roughly $2,136 per week, significantly less than the $6,712 per week earned by writers on scripted shows. Questions about authenticity also emerged. Fans initially believed they were witnessing genuine pawn shop operations, but reports indicated that some deals were staged, and negotiations sometimes planned in advance to enhance entertainment value. While common in reality TV, it left viewers feeling misled. For years, Pawn Stars presented itself as an unscripted, behind-the-scenes glimpse into a family business. But as lawsuits, disputes, and claims of staged deals surfaced, the carefully cultivated image began to crack, revealing the complex and sometimes bitter realities behind the cameras. Richard Harrison's story wasn't just about a pawn shop or a TV show. It was about family, resilience, and the price of fame. Behind the laughs and deals, real-life struggles shaped a legend. What do you think about the Harrison family drama? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more untold stories.